right, we're going to take a moment to get set up. So Greg here is going to talk about audio for webinar. Oh yeah, I guess we could do that. I'm Kara North.
I'm Sean Higgy, Greg Nagy. So yeah, I was just thinking about listening to Mark and Paul about just giving a little history of what I've gone through, and then kind of go into what we're doing now for instructional design, recording basically. When I started here at OSU about 15, 16 years ago, I was tasked to do live webinars, which was kind of interesting back in 2002 because we didn't have all the tools and recordings and things, or microphones that we have now. And so, I didn't know anything about it, so I remember, getting a camera like this and using the on-camera microphone and listening to that. I'm like, this is not going to work. So I thought, well, what do you do? So, I did some research and found that kind of at the time, the best thing to do was to get a mixer and I used SM58s, like Mark mentioned, and had XLR cables, and had them set up on the table, and had these nice stands, and we started that way because they were cheaper, less than $100, and I had a small budget. It worked pretty good, but then when I found that people kept hitting it or wouldn't stay near it, and then I moved on to the lavalier mics, and I started with, they had VHF, which were really bad. They were cheaper, but they would lose connection a lot, so that didn't last very long, and I went to the UHF ones, and they were very expensive. They were hundreds and hundreds per lavalier for a good one. But it worked very well, but even so, I still had to connect the lavalier went to a box, and then that box and XLR went to a mixer, and then I did the mixer, and then from there, I basically took an 1/8-inch cable, went into your headphone jack on your computer. And so by doing all that, you kind of lost a lot. And it worked pretty well. And then I got away from that, and then just in the past couple of years now, we've gone to I do instructional design, and now we need to record things. And I started with doing kind of the same thing, using a lavalier, using an SM58 and a mixer, and I hooked up the laptop and everything. And then with some of these new devices that came out, that is still best, but this is really quick, and it's pretty good. So I think that's what we're going to try to show, that, if I had my choice, I would go to that setup, because it does still sound better. But boy, it's so much easier to plug in USB, find a quiet spot, and get pretty good audio. So that's kind of, I think, what we're going to be showing here. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. So again, we introduced ourselves. We're at Seat, the corner of Kenny and Kinnear. But it looks like it's condemned on the outside, but people do work inside of it. All right, 3 things we're going to kind of touch base about. 1, what kind of audio do we do when we do videos? What kind of audio do we do when we're building out e-learning? And we're going to listen to some clips, because I'm part of a community of practice called the Training, Learning, and Development Community. This is something we've been talking about quite extensively over the past month, because everybody has their own different tricks and tips on how they do it, and they were so nice enough to let me borrow their voices. So I've downloaded a bunch of different clips that I want to share. Some are just basically people recording stuff with just the audio in their computers, so we're going to hear like what that sounds like. Some had the snowball, and then some had the Yeti, so we're just going to kind of listen, compare, and contrast. All right, I'm actually a huge TechSmith geek. I love Camtasia, I love Snagit. Anytime that they put out anything, I'm a big fangirl. And they did this really cool video that works here. Maybe it's gonna work, maybe it's not. Of what they did and how they set up for their recording.
And that was also the link in box?
Yeah.
Okay. We can just
Let's do this.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Little technical difficulties. Okay, but really. There it is. All right.
Video killed the radio stuff.
Yeah, if anybody wants to start that. No.
I mean, I'm sitting next to a musician, so.
Yeah, somebody should sing it.
Nobody does.
Okay, there should be a little video. Yeah, right there.
This one?
Yeah.
All right.
So these are some tips that they have. Oh, it's loud.
After this ad.
I tried recording in my house, and I have an ice maker. It just started rumbling right in the middle. I'm like, okay, we'll start over.
they go through, if you want to scroll down through here,
Okay.
just about what their studio looks like. And of course, they have all the good stuff, right? They have like the sound blocking things up, and they have different tech for their microphones. But what is really cool is they picked out like what they were interested in. And again, the first guy that was up here, it was way over my head what he was talking about. I enjoyed it. It was great, but I was like, I have no idea. So I wish he was still here, but if you, I'll do this.
Okay.
So here is the one that they said was the absolute best, and they have 3 different voices, and so we're just going to listen and compare. So this is the first one, female voice.
Oak is strong and also gives shade. Cats and dogs each hate the other. The pipe began to rust while new. Open the crate, but don't break the glass. Add the sum to the product of these 3.
It's like the weirdest haiku ever.
It is. It's like really weird what they're saying, but
Oak is strong and also gives shade. Cats and dogs each hate the other. The pipe began to rust while new. Open the crate, but don't break the glass.
all right.
That looks like from Blade Runner.
I feel like I'm taking a test.
Yeah. Are you a replicant?
Yeah.
Katzen und Hunde hassen sich gegenseitig.
Yeah, but see, he's so much
Das
quieter.
Rohr begann schon zu rosten, als es noch neu war.
He's a replicant, no doubt.
Die Kiste, aber beschädige nicht das Glas. Addiere die Summe zum Produkt dieser 3.
See, so what I find interesting when I listen to those, going back through this now that I'm reminded, I can hear pops on him, and when I speak into the microphone, I'm kind of banned from it. I get told I'm hot, and that's not a compliment. I'm very loud on the microphone, and I pop when I say my piece. And I know that even with a pop filter, I still pop like there's no tomorrow. But I find it interesting, I can hear it for him, but I can't hear it for the other 2. And I don't know if it's just because they're more conditioned of thinking more intentionally when they speak. I'm not sure, but yeah, and so then they list some more. We have 2 up here, and if we have time, people want to demo them or play with them, they can. This is my go-to, and I think most of us here at SEAT, that's what we use. We each have a personal one plus the one at the office. It's the Blue Yeti, and then this is the Blue Snowball. And Sean, do you want to talk about the Snowball a little
Sure.
bit?
Yeah, the Snowball is not great for super high quality sound, but it's small and portable. So what I like is that you can plug it into just about any computer because it's USB, and then it has the cardioid, and it can also do allegedly the whole room, but not very well. So this is sort of like. I use this for if I'm doing a webcast, so it can have something relatively close to my face that's not going to be, right in front of my face if I'm on a chat or on screen. And the quality doesn't matter so much for something like a webinar or a voice time, or FaceTime kind of conversation. So that's what we use this guy for.
Anything to add? No?
All right.
Okay, cool. Any questions about those 2?
So those are the microphones you use for like recording like e-learning modules? Or
We-
those are the ones you use for podcasting?
We
or-
definitely use the Yeti for the e-learning. We don't have a lot of different spaces where we can record, and the Yeti is pretty good when you're physically close to it to catch the sound and then not pick up too much in the background. You can control the gain pretty well, and then of course we do a lot of editing in Audition to kind of clean it up.
So this isn't, you're not taking this into Camtasia, you're doing this just audio.
I've actually taken audio recorded on the Yeti into Camtasia.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out for the Yeti. I use it every week for radio, and they haven't thrown me off yet, but that's probably, just a surprise as much as anything. But I love the Yeti Blue. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
It's cheap. It works flawlessly.
They have deals sometimes where it's like down to $89.
That's when
I
I
think
bought
that's
mine.
when I got mine when it was on sale.
Has all the same selections that you saw Mark have with the expensive mics. It has all different shades too.
So is it typical for your e-learning module workflow that you'll kind of try to clean up the audio separate from like the authoring tools? So I know you can record right into Storyline, or you can record right into
Yeah.
But are you typically, you're cleaning them up before you?
Yeah, usually the process is if we're recording straight into Storyline, it's for first draft, it's for review. Luckily with Storyline 360, we haven't needed to do that as much because it has built-in narration,
Which is cool.
which is a little creepy and robotic, but fine for review purposes. And then once the script has sort of been approved and it's gone through a couple rounds of review with subject matter experts, then we record the audio separately. I record just right into Audition, and then I edit using Audition.
That's what I do too.
Yeah, so, some of the same kind of tools that Paul was talking
And I'm poor, I use Audacity.
about.
But it works too.
Yeah, it works. I mean, that's what I'm used to, so.
And if I have someone want to give me an audio, I usually hand them the mic, and then they just use Audacity and give me the WAV file.
Yeah, speaking of Audition, while we're thinking about
Yeah,
it,
go ahead.
there is this video that I found. I'm gonna actually turn that audio down because I don't know how loud it is. But and we get an ad. But so the one thing I like about Audition in general is that there's quite a bit of information out there on how to use it. But this one specifically is about using the parametric equalizer to kind of do what Paul was talking about before, where you spot, let me see where he gets to it. Yeah, you kind of listen for sounds, frequency ranges that are jarring or have what almost sound like feedback, and then you use a very narrow band and kind of slide those out. And so we can provide the link, but we will sometimes do our recording in places that have a lot of background noise or hard surfaces, not really good for audio. And so I will use this afterward to get rid of some of those boomy echoes or high-pitched kind of squealy sounds that are kind of in the background.
I just wanted to point out that right on the right-hand side there, it's like the, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th video down. The person I saw that did the lavalier video that Paul showed.
Oh, Mike
Oh.
There he is. I follow him regularly. He has a whole series on Adobe Audition. He has radio voice, video voice, all kinds of stuff. So he's a really good person to follow.
Excellent.
He has some of these great tips as well.
Go back to, so then you probably have a room then that's kind of like soundproofed or optimized for recording?
Not really. I
Okay,
mean,
no.
I actually have had pretty decent success just using, as long as the room is carpeted, using this mic and getting the person relatively close to it. I've had quite a bit of success because we can use something like Audition to drop out the sort of background noise and then catch any of the sort of unpleasant frequencies there. So then once the sound is edited, we drop it back into Storyline for the final publishing. Yeah.
So, hey Doug, did you manage to get the room down the hall, like adjust the AV system, the way we were talking about Kyrie Hall, where I got my room adjusted?
Yeah, so if you go through what's it called?
Like
Facilities managed, FOD. We went and asked them to turn off some of the HVAC because Matt had done it in his room. They did some of it. We're still in progress. HVAC is the bane of your existence sometimes. Like
Yes,
this
it
room
is.
sucks for that, but you don't notice it because you just filter it out. But it shows up on all the recordings. But you can go to FOD and ask them to work with you, maybe find a way to shut it off when you're recording, turn it back on afterwards. I've worked in a lot of studios that did that.
We were able to get them to go in and actually like just turn the fans down so it didn't change the heat that was coming from everywhere, but it was the fans that were specifically going to that room. They were able to dial those down so they were so loud. And then we hung like a small piece of tape up on the vent so we could actually know when it was running because it would flutter a little bit and we could
That's a
see
good
it.
tip.
And so that we
Yeah.
knew not to record at that time and make sure we're pointing the mics directly away from that area in the recording.
And I did have a space we called a studio, which is kind of funny, but it had carpeting
AKA
and
junk
yeah, it was
room.
junk room. But I did have curtains up that helped a lot. In the new space now, it's very noisy. I'll have to do what you're saying, get fog to help turn it down.
FOD we trust.
Do you want to go back? Do you have anything more to say?
Not
or
really, I mean, I thought that's pretty good discussion.
any other questions? We For editing, again, we use Audition and Audacity, and a lot of the stuff we've already kind of talked about.
Do you guys want to hear some clips?
Sure.
Okay, let's go to the box.
No, it's
Okay, perfect. All right, and I put notes in here what each one was, or I knew I'd forget. Okay, this particular one was recorded with just the built-in microphone and a laptop. Now, some of these are a little silly, I will warn you. They were having a little bit of fun with it, so.
Whole page is a small blue menu bar towards the top of the page. The rest of the page holds links to sections that will guide you through your training experience going forward.
Now, remind you, this is all completely unedited. This is just raw thing, but it's very booming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty awful.
Yeah, I know. We'll listen one more time. Let's listen.
The whole page has a small blue menu bar towards the top of the page. The rest of the page holds links to sections that will guide you through your training experience going forward.
You said that's the built-in microphone?
Yeah, that's the built-in microphone in his laptop, so.
Those are usually exceptionally good
Well,
at capturing terrible audio.
All right, this one was a snowball.
Introducing a whole new type of soft drink. With room for juice, 10% of your daily calcium, and only 10 calories in every 8-ounce serving. It tastes so good, you can feel it in your bones. For delicious taste with calcium, the only way to go is Norte.
Sounds like a terrifying beverage.
I find it interesting you had to keep putting it up. So
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
that one was just really
I
quiet.
know.
I'll just control the
Okay, that sounds good.
volume.
All right. All right, this one is the same guy that did the laptop, but this time he's like playing with kind of like the game, like which side of the speaker it's going to come out of.
The home page has a small blue menu bar towards the top of the page. The rest of the page holds links to sections that will guide you through the training experience going forward.
So he's changing the gain as he's speaking?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
Your next assignment is to change the grade for the Adams triplets, Katie, Sadie, and Maureen.
I was like,
They're currently listed as sophomores in the web exam system, but they're actually juniors. Web exam includes a bulk action feature, letting you perform the same action on multiple students simultaneously. The wonders of technology.
when I wrote that script, it was supposed to be much more exciting.
That's how I read it. So again, that was just the Yeti, unfiltered, no pop filters. You heard, you could hear my pop on the P. I'm very aware of that.
No editing or anything?
No editing,
Okay.
yeah. And kind of depressed. No. All right, this is my friend, and he did this with a Yeti with a pop filter. And the cool thing about this is he made like different effects, like with his hands, to make it sound like a radio ad.
Join us for Video Friday. Video Friday, where we talk about media, gadgets, all manner of audio, video, and anything else with geek flair. It's the one day of the week where we like to talk about the tech we all use to create the learning media we love and hate.
So again, I don't know if you, like you're recording, if you would want to use hands and stuff, you know, on the front end. You might want to do that on the back end, but this is kind of fun. All right, this lady does like different kind of presenting voices, but it's a Blue Yeti without a filter, and then also obviously it's unfiltered, so she has a lot of background noise in this that you can hear.
Board. In our environment, we define talent acquisition as a systematic process of sourcing and selecting not only the best and the brightest, but the right individuals to enhance the performance of our teams. In this process, we proactively build a bench of potential candidates before they are needed, communicating with these individuals effectively to gauge their interest and their fit for our organization. Commercial. In our environment, We define talent acquisition as the systematic process of sourcing and selecting not
I think I don't want to torture anyone with that in there. So that's one that would need a lot of post-editing in Audition or.
That was with the Yeti?
That
Yes.
was with, apparently just there's a lot of background noise.
A lot of background noise where she's at, yeah.
Ooh.
Alright, now this one is with a lavalier.
Effective sales starts with lots of conversations with lots of prospects. Those conversations should eventually lead to signed contracts and fall within the time frame of a typical sales cycle.
These are some strange people.
I work with what I can get, okay?
That's good, I like
You are now giving me your money.
Press send now. All right.
Alright, that's all I had for the clips.
All right.
Any questions about that? I just thought it'd be helpful just to hear the different kinds of microphones and ways people did it. And obviously, I know everybody had different starting points on it, but just something a little bit different. So any questions for us? We're still work in progress. I mean, just like any other instructional design team, we're trying to figure it out and get projects done and meet deadlines and all that fun stuff.
I have a question for the hive mind here. We had somebody that wanted to do a Skype, conversation with somebody, wanted to record it and turn it into a pod or an audio. What are people using? Like, they're live in one room, the other person is remote. What software do you use to capture a Skype recording, a conversation? Anybody?
It's a Skype call recorder, I thought, or something.
Yeah, it's.
I just wonder what people were using so I could make recommendations.
I use Call Recorder. I think it's $30. You buy it once. It's a call recorder, and it's only with Skype. It only works with Mac, it just comes on automatically. And sometimes it runs. There is no way to change the input volume that I can find, and that runs hot from Skype. So there is unfortunately some clipping that will occur that you have to deal with afterwards.
If you really want it to be high end, then you should have the Skype on one machine going into a mixer.
Mixer.
And then you're talking to a mic on a separate channel that you're recording, and then your voice is also somehow going, maybe a second mic to that person remotely, but then the ability to mix it afterwards is very, very good when it comes to Skype recordings.
I may hit you up with some more help with
You
that.
get that out of Call Recorder. It does two monos.
Oh, yeah.
And I like it because it's digital recording, because when you do it that way, it goes digital, then it goes through another DAC. And
If you want to go the super jankety low end route, well, it's not that low end, but it's using a trial. There is a program called Loopback, which is only for Mac, and it routes audio in various directions. So the main trial restriction is that you can only have 20 minutes before it suddenly just fuzzes out all of your audio. You have to quit the program and come back. But you can create composite audio sources where you're, say, taking the mic output and looping it back into a virtual audio input, and then you can do stream recording and things like that.
And many PCs will allow you to choose what you hear or whatever's coming out of the speakers as an input.
Yeah, and that would be so much easier.
Macs just don't allow that. They've never done that, so that's why you have to buy a $10 or $20 program. But
This one's $99 or free if you go for 20 minutes or less.
I don't want to be sensitive to time, so I just wanted, if you all could join me in thanking Kara and Greg and Sean for